Let us all say amen. Amen. It's my great joy and privilege to introduce us all and present to others our speaker for this morning, the Reverend Greg Davis. He is the president and CEO of ALCAP. He's a great man that we respect and admire. He serves with the Alabama Citizens in Action Program, representing Alabama Baptist in the Alabama State Legislature. We're proud of his service. He's a graduate of UAB with a bachelor's degree. He also received his Master's of Divinity degree from the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. He's married, has two wonderful children. Prior to going to ALCAP, he served for more than 25 years with the First Priority Campus Ministry. If you will, give him a hand as he comes to share in his own way. Reverend Greg.
Well, good to be with you. Appreciate that introduction. That's the second best introduction I've had recently. One time the guy didn't show up and I introduced myself. And other than that, it was really good. Thank you, John. It's good to be with you guys today, and good to have Julie and Nate here from our staff. You know, we're here in Birmingham. The office has been forever, so Julie and Nate were able to come over and be here. And Dr. Godfrey's here, Joe Godfrey, who I have trying to follow in his ministry here with ALCAP, as he led for, around 15 years, is that right? Something like that, 15 years. Of course, before that, Dr. Ireland. So anyway, it's good to be with you guys, have some of you guys here today. I want to try to come at this the right way today. Let me just tell you about ALCAP. Okay, how's that? All right, and we've got board members here today as well. Lord, we got what? 1, 2, 3 board members in the room today as well. So this needs to be good, doesn't it? I need to make this right. But let's just talk about ALCAP for a minute. You know, it's been around for a long time. I know we've got people online as well that maybe aren't familiar. Founded, and Joe, correct me on any of this if I'm wrong, 1937 as a ministry, an organization, as a temperance alliance, really, coming out of that time period. And really for years and years and years worked on alcohol issues here in the state of Alabama. And more after Dr. Ireland came on board in the later 70s, then began to work on other issues as well and sort of expand that out into a lot of pro-life issues also, and then became just more and more influential, I think, on different moral issues across the state and dealing with the legislature. You know, it's really important that our churches have a voice and have a representation at the State House. You know, the decisions that are made there, I'm learning, you know, as a pastor, a lot of times it's hard to connect all the dots because you're just kind of, you know, you're looking at the tree so close you can't see the forest, and you know, it's perspective. But you know, the issues and the decisions that are made, the laws that are passed, even right here in the state of Alabama, and maybe more so in the state of Alabama than even nationally, sometimes they directly affect our ability as a church to minister and to reach people with the gospel. You know, bad policy constricts the spread of the gospel. It does. I mean, is it easier to reach somebody who's sober-minded or somebody who's out of their mind? It's easier to reach the person that's sober-minded. You know, so often I think this picture I've been seeing lately is really kind of the church is way downstream, and all the results of things that flow down, mostly negative, all flow down and sort of dump out here on the church at the bottom of the stream. And I'm hoping our churches can get more upstream and begin to really influence more there, so what comes down on the bottom isn't so bad. You know, these are gospel issues. For me, I've been saying it this way lately. It's kind of blunt, but I think y'all can handle it. You know, we're not just trying to see Alabama be a better place to live. There's people that do that, and I want Alabama to be a great place to live, but that's not really our goal, is to make Alabama a better place to live. We'll just say it this way. I'm not trying to see Alabama be a better place to go to hell from. I want to see Alabama be an easier place to go to heaven from. And so these are gospel issues that we're dealing with. So it's important that our churches have that representation and that we have such a history of it. There's not a lot of states really that have that kind of history of having someone representing them in their state house There's some other states that have that, but boy, ALCAP has a long, long history. And I shudder to think where our state would be if it wasn't for ALCAP, and if it wasn't for just most previously the ministry of Dr. Ireland and Dr. Godfrey. We have consumption rates on things like alcohol. People go, did it work? Well, our consumption rates on alcohol in the state of Alabama are the lowest in the country. If you didn't know that, it is. That comes straight from the ABC board. So it matters. These things work out in time. But sometimes as a pastor, it's hard to connect those dots and see how those things really, make their way, how they affect you week in, week out in your church. But if you have people showing up on your front doorsteps that are strung out and that are broke and that got family issues and divorce and got kids, well, you can't blame it all on the laws that are passed, but it's part of it. It's part of it. Because the laws we pass normalize behaviors. If something's illegal, it makes people check up and say, wow, that's illegal. Okay? Like the speed limit. If you go out here and the speed limit is slower than you think it should be, I think, okay, it's slow for a reason. There must be a bad curve up here. There must be something dangerous ahead for this speed limit to be this number. So now I might still go over that speed limit, all right? But I'm at least thinking about it. It makes me check up and think about it. You don't act like you don't do it too, right? Y'all got look real righteous there for a few minutes. So, it does make you check up, and it does make you think, why is this way? And so when you take these issues and you legalize them, well, especially to a newer generation that hasn't known of the other side of this issue, if something's legal, it's perfectly okay. It's wide open because they're trusting those in authority to set up guidelines and boundaries that they live their life by that will help them do well and flourish. So that's, ALCAP, some of our purpose there. We minister at the State House. I think sometimes that gets overlooked. And so I like to emphasize that a lot, the ministry. And Joe did a great job of that, Dr. Ireland. The weekly prayer breakfast during the legislative session started, Joe, I went back and looked. Best we could come up with, I think it was 1981, seems to be the year that Dr. Ireland started the prayer breakfast in Montgomery during the legislative session. And it continued all of those years until COVID. And then Joe got cut off mid-session, when everything, like we all did. We were able to relaunch the prayer breakfast this past spring. So it was about a year and a half. Didn't happen, session and a half. And so we were able to relaunch that this year. And I began to see the wisdom in having it and what a great platform it gives ALCAP and the Christian community that we're able to sort of foster there among the legislators who, many of them, most of the ones who come are away from home. I found the ones from the furthest away from Montgomery are the ones who tend to get involved. The ones that are closer to Montgomery, they drive home at night, so they've got a normal routine. But the ones that are further away, it's something they really value. So we had dozens and dozens and dozens of legislators and some other guests that were attending the prayer breakfast during the past spring. And so your support helps us do that. The BMBA, very generous supporters. Some of your churches are supporters. And so your support really helps us be able to do that, to create that community, to have really focused prayer times with the legislators. We take prayer requests and we log those onto a page, and our office, Julie and Nate, and they do a good job of putting all that together, and we send a devotional and we spread those all over the State House and the other affiliated buildings around Montgomery as a prayer list, and people look for that. And they look us up and they'll say, hey, put so-and-so on the prayer list, And sometimes we'll just stop and pray with them right there for whatever's going on in their life or the people that they know. So much like you would do when you're pastoring your church, we sort of try to serve in that role, that pastoral role there in the State House as much as people will allow us, Some are very receptive to that and they look for it, and some don't want anything to do with it. Y'all know that feeling? So, we try to serve in that way. I've got a personal goal of my own this year, and I really hadn't even said this publicly. I had already started it, but just as a challenge for myself, so I put it out there and make it public. I've got a goal between now and the end of the quadrennium, which would be 3 more sessions, so basically 3 years. You should be able to do this, would be to have a gospel conversation with every one of our legislators. And there's 140 of them. And then there'll probably be more than 140 because some of them will turn over. All right? So to have a gospel conversation on some level. You know, so many of our churches are emphasizing having gospel conversations, just getting that going. So that's something we want to do as well. There's nothing better that we could do, myself or Joe would be, than to lead someone to Christ, not just the legislators, but their staffs and all of those that work there in Montgomery. So ministry is a big part of what we do there. You know, there's last year I had quite a few pastors that came down and spent the day with us. John came and Chris was there. Who else came? Nobody else in the room, I don't think, came down and would, you know, just walk around with us all day long, and you know, and meet with their legislator and see people and all those kind of things. But 2 or 3 of them in particular, Joe, especially some that came on Tuesdays when we're distributing the prayer list, or those that came on Thursdays and came to the prayer breakfast. A couple of them, I remember they specifically said basically the same thing. They looked at me before they left and they said, "Man, thanks for letting me come down and hang out with you. You got quite a ministry here." You know what I mean? It's really, there's a ministry opportunity there. You know, we think of those as dark places, you know what I mean? And there is a lot of darkness, and there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of evil. But there's lights there as well. And we want to be one of those lights, and we want to help accentuate the lights that are there as well, so we can shine brighter together than apart. So ministry is a big, big part of that. So, you know, sometimes people just get caught up and think, ALCAP's all about laws and regulations and all this kind of stuff. And that stuff's really important. But really, as a pastor, as someone who was in evangelism for nearly 30 years, man, my heart's the gospel. And so I see all of these things through the gospel issues. And then to inform our churches as well is so important, to keep our churches informed. And so during this time of the year in particular, kind of coming out of summer and through the fall, I've been just traveling all over. Joe did this for years and years, traveling all over the state, meeting with groups like you. I've spoken at probably 20 different of these type of meetings with pastors in different parts of the state in the last few months. And just to keep you guys informed as to what's going on legislatively and how these matters will affect you. So we'll get into some of those in a few minutes. Monitoring what's going on. I know it's really hard to keep up as a pastor. It's hard to keep up with all, you know, you got everything right in front of you. It's hard to be able to know the issues that are out there. So we try to monitor those for you. When there's something that comes up you need to be aware of, we post those things on our website, through social media. Hopefully we're keeping good information coming out. Monitoring literally the thousands of bills that are filed every year during the legislative session. It's really kind of overwhelming, thousands of bills. And so, you know, we're looking for these bills that have things in them that matter to us, you know, the issues that really affect us, the things that are going to, that if they don't get them right, the results are going to show up on your front door of your church. You're going to deal with the fallout. And then, of course, we want to influence, naturally. You know, that should be any of our goals, to influence people for Christ, influence for godliness. And so, you know, we all want to be an influence for certain. You know, we want to influence our legislators to stand for righteousness. You know, that's the biggest thing, really. Sometimes I'm able to be in churches of our legislators. In fact, I was just in the Speaker of the House, Nathaniel Ledbetter. He's from up in Rainsville area, and I just preached in his home church 2 weeks ago, Broadway Baptist in Rainsville. And it's his home church. Now, he wasn't there that morning, but they all know him. You know what I mean? Everybody knows him. And and I did the same thing. I was at First Baptist Jasper, Senate Pro Tem. Greg Reed is there. That's his home church. And he was there. He actually did the special music that morning in the church. And I challenged their people. Pray for them. And I want to challenge you today to do the same thing. Pray for these people. And I know, and this is unfortunate, but I know that we're really not praying for them. I'm guilty of it. I've been guilty of it. So it's a challenge. We're not praying for them. Because here's how I know, because I won't do it today, but I've done it enough to know. I go in and I'll say, who's your state senator? Who's your state representative? And I stand in front of pastors, just like you guys, and they don't know. And they don't know who they are. In fact, sometimes I can call their name and they still don't know them. And I want to say, did you even vote? You know what I mean? You know, who's your state senator where you live and where your church sits? Who's your state representative where you live and where your church sits? That's one of the important things of ALCAP Sunday that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. You know, it's been the second Sunday of November for years, recognized by the Alabama Baptist Convention. And I think the emphasis on that has not been as much as it should be. And one of the primary efforts of that is to just encourage our churches that day to pray for the people, your elected officials. Just pray for them. If you want to know who they are, you can go to our website. It's say find your legislator. You can click straight through there, follow the simple instructions, and it'll pull up every person that is your elected person, all from federal all the way down through the state levels. I don't think it gets down to county. I don't think it goes to the county, but those are not hard to find either. But that gives you a big list of people you can pray for. You know, the president, the vice president, all the way down to your state senators and your members of Congress, all the way down to the state level. So I would just encourage you on that day, take a few minutes, read those names before your church, and take a moment and pray for them. And make that a consistent part of your church's life. Put them on your